When was the last time you actually finished something small and let it count? Not a promotion, not a transformation, not a before and after. Just something small that you said you'd do and did. Take a second, actually think of one. If nothing comes to mind immediately, that's not an accident, and you're about to find out exactly why. Somewhere right now, someone is standing in front of a made bed, a finished workout, a single sent email, and they feel nothing. No fireworks, no music swelling, no sense that anything just changed. And yet, 6 months from now, that person's entire life will look different. Not because of one massive decision, but because of that one unremarkable moment repeated until it stopped being small. Meanwhile, most people are still waiting for the big moment. The dramatic turnaround, the lightning bolt, the day everything clicks. The big moment isn't coming. It was never going to come. Success was never built in a single scene. It was built in the boring footage they cut out of the trailer. Here's the reason your small wins have been disappearing without adding up to anything. And the one shift that turns them into something that compounds instead of vanishes. Most people think momentum is a feeling, a rush that carries you forward once it finally shows up. So they wait for it, but momentum isn't a feeling. It's accumulated proof, and you're about to see exactly how it's built. Let me tell you about a man named Marcus. 26, laid off twice in 2 years, living back in his childhood bedroom. Every scroll through social media felt like a small public humiliation. Old classmates buying houses, starting companies, posting vacations. Marcus made his bed the next morning. Nothing happened. And him lying on a bed that still had his high school trophies on the shelf. He'd tried the big swings before. Quit a job to chase a dream that collapsed in 4 months. Signed up for a course he never finished. Started 3 businesses in his head that never left his notes app. Every big attempt ended the same way, not with failure exactly, but with quiet abandonment. The kind where you don't even announce you've given up, you just stop mentioning it. One night, staring at the ceiling, he admitted something to himself that embarrassed him. Maybe the goals weren't too big by accident. Maybe some part of him kept choosing goals so big that failure was almost built into the plan. Because if the goal was impossible to sustain, he could blame the goal instead of ever having to question himself. That night, he made himself one absurdly small promise. Not build a business, just make his bed every morning. He almost laughed at himself typing it into his notes app. It felt insulting, like giving up on ambition entirely. Think about the last goal you abandoned. Was it too big to survive a bad day? Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they built goals that only strong days could carry, and nobody has strong days every day. No epiphany, no surge of motivation. But the next night, lying down in a bed that was actually made, something small shifted. So he added one more thing, 10 push-ups right after making the bed. Still nothing dramatic, just a slightly different feeling climbing into that same bed the next night. Here's the mechanism explained once, so stay with me. Confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from proof, from things you actually followed through on. Your mind is a jury that's watched you break promises to yourself for years. Every abandoned goal was evidence against you. Every "I'll start Monday" that quietly died by Wednesday, building a case that you can't be trusted by yourself. Now stop for a second, because this next part is the one thing worth remembering out of everything you hear today. A goal too big to sustain doesn't just fail, it adds to that case permanently, whether you finish the year or not. But a goal so small it's almost embarrassing is nearly impossible to break. And every time you don't break it, the jury enters new evidence, one small deposit at a time, into a case file that's been building against you for years. Enough deposits and the verdict changes. Not because any single deposit was large, but because you stopped being someone who skips them. The made bed wasn't magic. What mattered was the promise underneath it. He said he'd do something, and then he watched himself do it. Small promise kept noticed, that's the whole engine. Small action becomes a kept promise becomes proof becomes self-trust, and self-trust hardens into identity. Everything from here is just that chain playing out differently. And here's why any of this actually matters beyond just feeling better. Self-trust isn't the finish line. It's what lets you finally attempt the things you've been too afraid to start, because you're no longer betting the outcome on willpower you don't trust yourself to have. Most people already believe in small wins theoretically. They've heard the phrase, nodded, and gone right back to setting goals too big to survive a Tuesday. So here's a quick experiment. Picture the smallest possible version of your current biggest goal. Have you actually attempted that version, or only the version big enough to impress people watching? It doesn't matter if it's the 40 pounds you keep starting Mondays for, or the resignation letter you've drafted in your head 100 times but never actually written. The mechanism doesn't care what you're proving, only that you prove something. Marcus's wins didn't stay small for long, but not the way you'd expect. 3 weeks of a made bed and 10 push-ups turned into a short walk, which turned into him finally opening that business idea again. Not to build the whole thing, just to write one paragraph. Here's the line he still says to people now. I didn't get disciplined and then start winning. I started keeping tiny promises. And eventually discipline stopped feeling like something I needed to force. We usually assume discipline has to come first and momentum follows. Marcus's experience says it can work the other way. Proof repeated is what discipline is actually built from. Now picture this for a second, not Marcus, that version of you. 90 days from now, looking back at a start that was almost too small to mention. 1 page written, 1 short walk, 1 made bed, 1 difficult conversation finally had. Momentum never makes the highlight reel. It doesn't feel massive while it's happening. It feels almost boring day after day of unremarkable follow-through, and somehow without a single dramatic day, you're somewhere completely different. Not because you found willpower you didn't have before, because you stopped requiring a big moment to begin. Hold that picture. Because knowing the mechanism and actually running it are two different things, and most people stop right here at the theory. So here's the loop. Shrink it. Make the action small enough to survive your worst day. Complete it. Don't measure how impressive it was. Measure whether you kept the promise. Notice it. Say the sentence out loud or in your head. I said I would and I did. Repeat it. Resist the urge to chase a bigger challenge just because you're excited, and only increase the difficulty once the small version feels almost too easy to skip, because every repeat is another deposit. And deposits are the only thing that actually moves the number. Here's the part most people skip, the notice it step. Most people are surprisingly bad at recognizing their own progress. They hit a small win and immediately move the goalposts. That doesn't count, that was easy. And in doing that, they throw away the exact evidence they were trying to build. Say the sentence anyway, even quietly, even if it feels silly. Repeat it enough times, that sentence stops being a sentence and starts being how you see yourself. The scale of it is only visible from far enough away. You won't feel your life changing while it's changing. You'll only see it when you turn around and notice how far back the starting point actually is. The reason your small wins have been disappearing without adding up to anything is simple. You've been having them and refusing to count them, which means in your own mind they never happened at all. That stops today with the very next small thing you complete and actually acknowledge. So let's go back to where we started. Somewhere right now, someone is standing in front of a made bed, a finished workout, a single sent email, feeling nothing dramatic. And 6 months from now, their life looks completely different. The bed doesn't matter. The workout doesn't matter. The email doesn't matter. What matters is what each one proves. You can make a promise to yourself and keep it. Then tomorrow you do it again. That's how a life changes, not all at once, but so gradually that one day you look back and realize you became someone you can finally trust. Before you go to sleep tonight, choose one action so small you know you'll complete it tomorrow. Write it down. Tomorrow, do it before you give yourself a chance to negotiate with it. And when it's done, say it plainly. I said I would and I did. That's your first deposit. If you're someone who's tired of abandoning goals quietly and ready to become someone who keeps small promises instead, subscribe to Skilloma and bring the next one with you. And if you've ever wondered why some people seem to keep going long after everyone else quits, the next video breaks down exactly what's happening in their mind when things get hard.